My name is Gadis Artamefia from Class 4D of English Education, and in this occasion I will share some information from 10 articles that I have read. And please enjoy my video. So without any further ado, let's get straight into the discussion. Okay, the first article is Developing Bottom-Up Listening Skills in a Google Classroom EFL module. In this article, UIN discusses the importance of listening skills, especially in learning a foreign language. In Vietnam itself, listening skills in learning a foreign language are the most difficult skills. So, many Vietnamese students take special tutoring for English subjects. Bottom-up listening skills have not received much attention in teaching English as a foreign language, whereas bottom-up listening skills are perfect for beginner learners. Due to their limited language repertoire, which doesn't automatically process what they hear and understand input messages. Therefore, UIN will use bottom-up listening skills as a discussion in this article. To find out children's understanding in listening skills, UIN uses bottom-up skills because bottom-up skills play an important role in helping students understanding listening input at sound, syllable, chunk, word, syntax, and intonation. The research conducted by UIN purpose to investigate the effect of listening to English as a foreign language on bottom-up skills on students, so that bottom-up listening skills can get more attention in teaching listening as a foreign language. In addition, this study also purpose to examine the views of Vietnamese EFL students on the effect of the English as a foreign language. Listening model from bottom-up activities on EFL students' listening, learning, and their views on using Google Classroom as a tool for the listening model. The result obtained by author can answer two research questions. Namely, for the first question, there are two benefits that are most mentioned by students. Namely, the bottom-up listening method can improve basic listening skills and increase learning motivation. After that, for the second question, the result of prospective students about module show that there are three biggest influences, including students being able to find material independently, 95%, feeling motivated to learn listening skills, 89%, and accessing listening materials anytime, anywhere, 78%. And then the second article is ways of developing listening skills of learners in ESL or EFL. ESL means English as a second language, then EFL means English as a foreign language. Okay. In this article, the author discussed one problem that students or locals may need to pay attention to, namely the importance of listening skills in foreign language learning. Among the 4 skills that support foreign language learning, listening skills are the first thing foreign language learners acquire. Because listening is the most basic and powerful way to connect with others, like paying attention to what people are telling us, and is also an important start in the process of understanding language, so that students know how to adapt to conditions both physically and mentally, and to prove that students be good communicators. Okay. The purpose of the research conducted by Feruza is to clarify the importance of receptive skills as well as a strong focus on several productive methods for teaching those in ESL or EFL classes. Because the four language learning skills are interconnected, which include receptive skills or listening and reading skills, which were students only accept and understand, so that students don't productive skills, in which learner must productive language by making use of the skills. Therefore, receptive skills need to be developed to build productive skills. As a result, the researcher conclude that the difficulties faced by the students were problems with voice, unable to understand a native speech quickly and naturally, difficult to follow, tired, needed to hear something more than once, and had to understand every word. From the result that appear, it can be concluded that it is very important to be a good listener and a perfect communicator. Lessons should include pre-listening, introduction to context, thereby building interest and understanding. Then while listening, to train students to develop their listening skills such as predicting, and post-listening activities, or asking students to talk about how the topics in the text relate to their own lives or give their opinion about the passage of the text, which is an important step for both teacher and students. Then the third article is teaching listening skills to English as a foreign language student through effective strategies. Listening is one of the most important skills for English learners. Therefore, the writers want to discuss about teaching methods and effective strategies that can help EFL students in listening to English. Because in verbal communication, we must listen and understand what the speaker is saying. EFL students studying English inevitably face problems in listening because anxiety and lack of strategies for dealing with listening. Therefore, the purpose of this research is to reduce listening difficulties and improve listening skills of EFL learners effectively through effective strategies and skills, in order to give them more confidence to try new ways of improving listening skills. The findings from the authors are more than 90% of EFL students who think that they like listening to English. Their listening skills improve with material that uses video media, worksheet, PowerPoint, textbook, Bluetooth speaker in class. They also confirm that writing answer in textbook help their listening skills. In conclusion, the teacher should encourage and help them become an effective communicator with listening strategies and new techniques. And students should be trained to improve their listening skills by giving listening practice a lot of and strategies, new techniques. So student listening skills will develop in some way. Okay. For the fourth article is improving listening skills with extensive listening using podcast or podcast. In this case, the author will focus on discussing improving listening skills by using podcast or podcast, because the author wants to know whether EFL students have an improvement after listening to podcast or podcast as a media to improve listening skills. The other purpose of this research are, first, to prove a snapshot of second language learners podcast and podcast use behaviors for extensive listening practice. Second, to examine the effectiveness of podcasts and podcast-based extensive listening on the development of second language learner listening comprehension. And the third, to probe into the pros and cons of podcast and vodcast-based extensive listening. Other findings from this research are a result that shows 80% students use podcasts to practice second language listening outside of the classroom, whereas only 32% of them practice extensive listening with podcasts. Then, listening to podcasts or vodcasts extensively improve students' second language listening skills from 42.65% to 69.34%. And some students report that listening every week for 2 semesters is a bit tedious. And finding podcasts and vodcasts that match their interest and level is challenging. In conclusion, vodcast is less preferred than podcast by students. We go to the next article. Next article is the 5th article, entitled Using Podcast for EFL Students in Language Learning. Most schools in Indonesia use native Indonesian teachers as English teachers rather than native speakers. So it becomes a big challenge for the students because they are barely exposed to the real speakers. Because most English tests such as TOEFL and IELTS use native speakers in the listening sessions, student needs a media that can lead them to native speakers. So in this research, the author discusses how podcasts can influence and improve students' listening skills in English. Podcasts are audio recordings published on the internet and designed as learning resources. Podcasts are considered as a new innovation to build students' listening and speaking skills. Why do writers use podcasts? Because podcasts offer up-to-date content and good original speakers for practice listening. They are also easy to find and download. The purpose of this research is to introduce podcasts as a tool for developing language skills, because podcast has the power to motivate students in learning English. The first finding made by author, it can be said that female and male students are more interested in using podcasts as a media, because podcasts can be interesting students' attentions through various podcast content that students can use in learning. So that the use of podcasts has an impact on students' motivation in language learning. Furthermore, the teacher can choose content that is in accordance with the ability of students so that students don't have difficult filtering content. Then, for the second finding can be said that podcast is a potential tool that can be used to support motivate students to learn listening skills. Indonesian students are interested in podcasts because they can provide knowledge for the listeners, so that it has a good effect on their listening skills. So in conclusion, podcasts are very useful in English learning. Okay, now we are in the 6th article, entitled Teaching English by Using Podcasts, Its Influence on Undergraduate Students' Listening Comprehension. Students have their difficulties when it comes to listening. They find it difficult to understand what they are listening to, especially in long monologue texts that make students tired and difficult to concentrate while listening. Therefore, the author wants to discuss podcasts as a media that can influence students' listening. Because there is a lot of content that can be selected according to the ability level of students, the purpose of this research was to determine the effect of podcasts on undergraduate student listening comprehension. The findings presented by the researchers are the results of the correlation is very good or podcasts are very reliable indeed. It means at the end of the study, students' ability differed significantly between before and after using podcasts in the undergraduate student listening comprehension. With the average score of students before using podcasts was 67.45, classifying scores is 60 to 79, while the average score of students after using podcasts is 82.95. The classification score is 80 to 89. So in this article, in conclusion, by using podcasts, the student will not be bored and they are easier to understand and improve their listening skills. Okay, we go to the seventh article entitled The Impact of Podcasts on EFL Students' Listening Comprehension. In Indonesia, English is a compulsory subject to learn, but most teachers in Indonesia still use Indonesian when explaining material or when giving direction to carry out English exam, and teacher rarely give students the opportunity to practice English when communicating. This can be a problem because students will rarely hear conversation using English or receive authentic material, so that their listening skills don't develop. Therefore, the author wants to discuss the use of podcasts as a learning media for EFL students in developing listening skills. Because podcasts are one of the easiest media to use anywhere and anytime, and podcasts are considered to be able to increase listening comprehension. The purpose of the research conducted by the author is to determine students' listening comprehension through the use of podcasts in the EFL class. The result found by author is 80% state that the use of podcasts can improve student listening skills because podcasts are media that have many discussion options. So students are interested in using podcasts and are able to improve listening comprehension. Then 60% state that podcasts are authentic materials, so that are very suitable for use as a media for listening to English. And as much as 70%, the students recommended teachers to use podcasts as a media to improve students' listening skills. Because apart from being great for motivating students, podcasts can also be accessed very easily, making it very affordable for a wide range of students. So in conclusion, podcasts have a positive influence or outcome regarding the effects of podcasts on EFL students' listening comprehension. Or in a sense, podcasts can improve students' listening skill comprehension. Okay, now we are in the 8th article entitled The Challenges of Using TED Talks as Authentic Resources of Academic Listening for EFL University Students. Most EFL students have problems with listening, such as when recognizing information, getting the main idea from what was conveyed, and drawing conclusion from what was conveyed by the speaker. All of this is due to the lack of vocabulary that students have. Therefore, the authors would like to discuss authentic language as a material to develop students' listening skills. because the author feels that authentic materials are one way to increase students' vocabulary. And the author wants to use authentic materials to develop students' vocabulary, to better understanding listening lessons in English as a foreign language class. Authentic materials is meant by using TED Talks. TED Talks has speakers from around the world who offer lectures on various topics such as technology, art, entertainment, politics, and social issues. So TED Talks allow students to have more vocabulary, experience real language use, and learn content instead only form of language. The purpose of this research is to see how much influence the use of TED Talks as an authentic material has in developing students' listening skills, especially in the amount of vocabulary and understanding of information. TED Talks can help students in developing their listening skills, both in vocabulary and comprehension, so that TED Talks can be regarded as a useful media to develop students' listening skills in learning English as a. And now we go to the ninth articles, entitled Listening Comprehensions, Problems and Strategies Used by Intermediate EFL Learners. Listening is a basic skill in learning a foreign language, so language learning strategies are very important for maximum listening comprehension. In this study, the author revealed the problems related to EFL intermediate students in Iran who should have the right strategy in learning to listen to English as a foreign language. Therefore, the author wants to discuss how to use the right strategy in learning to listen to English as a foreign language. Because with the use of the right strategy, intermediate students in Iran may develop their comprehension of listening to English. The main objective of this study was to examine the problem of listening comprehension and strategy used among Iranian intermediate EFL students. Okay. In the findings of the authors, there are several problems faced by EFL intermediate students in Iran. Namely, students find it difficult to understand listening because they are not familiar with the vocabulary. So students find it difficult to understand what the speaker is saying. Then, students find it difficult to summarize the information obtained through listening, and they have difficulty remembering meaning of long listening text, as well as they are difficult to reduce anxiety before doing the listening task. Then there is a significant relationship between listening problems and the use strategies among middle EFL students in Iran. That is, by improving cognitive strategies and cognitive process can significantly affect listening problems. In conclusion, listening skills must be acquired because listening is critical and fundamental, not just as a receptive language skills, but also as a necessary tool for speech progress language ability. Therefore, we need to know how the right strategy is to make our students understand listening to the maximum and get the best result. And now we go to the last article, it's the 10th article. This article entitled The Use of Authentic Materials in EFL Listening Classroom, Student Perspective. Okay, in listening, students need authentic materials in order to better describe how the daily life of native English speakers is, because authentic materials are spoken or written data produced in real life communication, so that they are more easily accepted by English learner as a foreign language. Therefore, the author wants to discuss various kinds of authentic materials because authentic materials are considered to be able to help develop the listening skills of learners of English as a foreign language. The objective of the research conducted by the author was to explain the use of authentic materials in English classroom and students' perception towards the use of it. Authentic material have a positive effects on stimulating motivations, raising cultural awareness, facilitating learners' interest, giving a real exposure, giving exposure to contextual use of language, and boosting confidence and experience to the real language. And the last part is the references that I used to review my 10 articles. If you are interested in discussing listening, you can search for this article on Google Scholar. I hope what I have said can be of use to you guys. And don't forget to like, comment on my video so I can get a good score. Thank you!